in 1966, that was the first year that Cabbage in our area fetched $5 per crate.
Perhaps because of its green color, cabbage became a slang term for money. Have you ever heard it used that way? It may have slipped out of fashion in the slang use of today. But our cousin Mike Stepp, who was a guest on the podcast at the end of February when he talked about his long-time work growing apples, related a story about turning cabbage, the veggie, into cabbage, the money, to buy a 1966 Pontiac GTO, one of the most coveted sports cars of that time. It's a funny story, and since in this week's Produce Buzzers podcast we tell you all about cabbage, not the money version, but the delicious and nutritious vegetable version, we thought we would share his story as a bonus segment on the Produce Buzzers podcast. Mike, tell us how you turned cabbage into a GTO.
It sounds kind of, I don't know, archaic now to a certain extent, but cabbage, you know, Rick, if you recall, Edwin, you might have been too young at the time, but $2.50, $3, $4, something like that for a 50-pound crate of cabbage. They brought $5. They brought $5 that season for a while. And my dad gave my brother and I, Joby, gave us an 8-acre of cabbage to actually just get the profit off of it. We did not really have to work that any different than any of our other fields. You know, we were working. He probably had 100 acres or so of cabbage that year, and you know, we worked all of it just like we worked that field just like we worked everything else. But he had a deal to let us get the profit off of it. And when those cabbage were cut, the market got up to $5, and we took the profit off that. And both of us bought new cars that year.
Wow.
So couldn't have been in a better place. I bought a 1966 Pontiac GTO, and Joby got a 1966 Chevrolet Chevelle Super Sport.
Oh, wow.
And it's interesting.
And they were loaded with everything.
Well, I did not get air conditioning. Air conditioning was not a thing back then. But it had all the bells and whistles that I wanted for speed. And I say this, I mention this story every once in a while. If cabbage hadn't brought $5 per crate that year, Rita and I probably wouldn't have ever gotten married.
Oh, she liked that car, did she?
I think she would have found you.
Oh, man.
Well, I remember the history of why the cabbage hit $5. Do you remember the history of why it did?
No.
Yeah, my dad told me several times about this. That year, there was a bad freeze in certain areas, like in Georgia, South Carolina, places that normally would be coming in with cabbage at that point in time. And there was a gap. And the only cabbage that was available was in Henderson County, you know, in the South.
Yeah.
And my dad had a really good relationship with the military. He sold to the Army. And the buyer's name was Mr. Floyd. And he would call my dad. Yeah, he would call my dad and ask him, how much is cabbage today? And so my dad said, well, we got the only cabbage right now. So he said $5. He said, okay. He had to get 3 bids. And then he would come back and give my dad the bid. And see, the Army, they don't care how much they spend. If they have to have cabbage on the menu, they pay the price. And so Publix or Winn-Dixie would have said, no, we'll just pass on cabbage this week. So he sold that to the military for $5 a crate. It was the highest that cabbage had ever been in the history of the United States.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that, but I knew it was the highest for here. So that's good to get the backstory.
And what did you pay for that car, and what would it be worth now? Because I know those cars are real collectors. So
I do remember the exact amount for that car. It was $3,165.
Okay.
What's
And it
that?
would have been worth probably 30 or 40,000 now.
I'll have to find out because Ken would know, but it may be worth a lot more than that.
It could be if it was just barely restored, it might bring 30, but yeah, it might be more like 60. But ask Ken, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is that car now? Do you have any idea?
Thankfully, I do not know. I wish I had kept it.
All right. Now, am I inventing this memory, or did your car have a turntable in it? Whose car? It didn't?
Joby's
had
did.
only an AM radio.
Joby's somebody had a
Joby
turntable.
had a record player, remember, on the console?
Well, when it came from the factory, it only had an AM radio, but I did install a 4-track tape. Had a 4-track tape system.
But do you
I
remember
had about 2
Joby's?
tapes.
In Joby's Chevelle, he had a record player on the console.
That I don't remember. That's interesting.
Yeah, ask him about it.
Okay.
You could put an album on there and play it, and we'd be going like 80 miles an hour down the Dana Road listening to the Beach Boys on the.
And it didn't skip.
I guess the reason you don't remember it is because you had your own car. You probably didn't ride in Joby's car.
That's a good point.
Mike, do you remember when you tried to sell me that car?
No, not exactly.
When Lori and I were first married, you decided you were going to buy a Corvette. And you came to me and said, I will sell you this car for, I think it was $400. And I laughed. I said, Mike, I couldn't afford to drive that car. We're in an energy crisis right now, and gas is 39 cents a gallon.
Oh my God.
Hope you enjoyed that bonus segment about the power of cabbage. Be sure to listen to the full episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast this week about cabbage to learn of its real power to keep you healthy. It's just in time for St. Patrick's Day, of which cabbage is the undisputed veggie star of the holiday. We hope you'll be eating some as you celebrate. It might not bring you good luck, but it will certainly bring you good health. Happy St. Patty's Day!